Fuel companies have pulled off one of the biggest scams of all time. They've convinced millions of people that premium petrol is better. Fuel additives are worth buying, and turning off the AC saves a ton of fuel. None of that is true, but drivers keep wasting their money because they don't know any better. This video breaks down 8 of the dumbest fuel myths that people still fall for. If you're spending extra at the pump, there's a good chance you've been lied to. Myth 1. Turning off the AC saves you lots of fuel. A lot of people believe that switching off the air conditioning saves a huge amount of fuel. In reality, the difference is much smaller than you think. Modern AC systems are highly efficient and only increase fuel consumption by about 0.2 to 0.5 liters per 100 kilometers. That's barely noticeable, especially compared to things like tire pressure, driving style, or carrying extra weight in the car. Some people say rolling down the windows instead is better. That might work at low speeds under 50 kilometers per hour, but once you get on the motorway, open windows create drag, making your engine work harder. Any fuel savings? Gone. In Europe, where temperatures are often below 18 degrees Celsius, AC use is a major issue, but in hot weather it can increase fuel consumption by up to 10% in city driving, or even 18% in extreme heat. That mostly applies to older cars with inefficient AC systems. Modern cars are much smarter. Their automatic climate control adjusts to cooling to avoid unnecessary fuel waste. If you're driving on the motorway, using AC is usually the better option over open windows. In stop-and-go traffic or mild weather, turning it off when you don't need it can help a little. But unless you're driving an old, fuel-hungry car, this isn't something to stress over. Myth 2. Manual cars always use less fuel. There was a time when manual cars were the go-to choice for better fuel efficiency, but with modern automatics that's no longer the case. Older automatics were inefficient because they had fewer gears and relied on torque converters that wasted energy. But today's automatics, especially those with 7 to 10 gears, CVTs or dual clutch systems, are often more fuel efficient than manuals. For example, the Toyota 86 uses 7.1 liters per 100 kilometers in automatic form, while the manual version uses 8.4 liters per 100 kilometers. That's a clear win for the automatic. Some argue that manuals can still save fuel if the driver shifts gears at the perfect time. That's true, but most people don't shift optimally all the time. Skilled drivers can exceed a car's official fuel rating by up to 17%, but for everyday drivers, modern automatics do a better job of optimizing fuel use. Manuals are still popular in Europe because they cost less to buy and give drivers more control. But if fuel efficiency is your main concern, an automatic might actually be the smarter choice. Most drivers are making huge mistakes that slowly destroy their engine without even realizing it. If you want to keep your car in top shape and avoid costly repairs, watch 7 driving habits that ruin your engine next. Click the video now before you make another expensive mistake. Myth 3. Topping off the gas tank gets you a lot more mileage. Pumping extra fuel after the nozzle clicks might feel like getting the most out of every drop, but it actually does the opposite. Modern fuel systems don't work like the old days. When that pump shuts off, the tank is full. Forcing in more fuel just creates problems. Most petrol stations have a vapor recovery system that sucks excess fuel back into their tanks. That means paying for fuel that never even stays in your car. Worse, fuel expands when it gets warm. Overfilling can push petrol into the evaporative emission system, which is designed to handle vapors, not liquid fuel. This can lead to expensive repairs, reduced fuel efficiency, and even a check engine light. Fuel spills don't just waste money, they evaporate into the air, adding to pollution, and can even be a fire hazard near hot engines or static electricity. Overfilling can also cause leaks that make roads slippery, creating unnecessary risks. The best move is to stop when the pump clicks. Topping off does nothing but waste money and create problems that could have been avoided. Myth 4. Premium fuel does make a regular car run better. Many people think premium fuel makes a car run smoother, last longer, or burn cleaner. If the car isn't designed for high-octane fuel, none of that is true. The only difference between regular and premium petrol is the octane rating. Premium fuels meant for high-performance or turbocharged engines to prevent knocking. If the car is built for regular petrol, switching to premium does nothing. the engine won't run better, fuel economy won't improve, and there won't be any extra cleaning benefits. All modern fuels contain detergents that keep engines clean. Regular fuel already has everything needed to prevent carbon buildup. Paying extra for premium is like buying an expensive version of the same product with no extra benefits. The extra cost adds up fast. Spending 10 cents more per liter might not seem like much, but over a year it can mean hundreds of euros wasted. That money could go toward actual maintenance or upgrades that make a real difference. Premium fuel is useful for cars that require it, like performance models from BMW or Audi. For anything else, it's just an unnecessary expense. Sticking to regular fuel when the manual says it's fine is the smartest move. Myth 5. Filling up in the morning saves you money. Some people think filling up in the morning gets them more fuel for their money. The logic sounds solid. Cooler temperatures mean denser fuel, so they believe they're squeezing a little extra into the tank. It would be a great hack if it actually worked. Petrol stations store fuel in underground tanks, where the temperature barely changes. These tanks are insulated and buried deep, so the fuel stays at a steady temperature all day long. Whether it's morning, afternoon, or night, the density stays the same. Consumer Reports tested this theory and found that even if fuel temperature jumps from 15 degrees Celsius to 24 degrees Celsius, the difference in volume is only about 1%. That means the savings on a 50-liter fill-up would be less than 50 cents. Waking up early just to save pennies on fuel doesn't make sense. Petrol prices do change throughout the day, but has nothing to do with temperature. It's all about demand. In Germany, studies show prices peak during the morning rush hour and drop in the evening. The difference can be as much as 12 cents per liter, which adds up way faster than any so-called density trick. The best way to save money at the pump is by refueling when prices are low, not when the air feels cool. Petrol stations and modern fuel storage have made the morning fill-up myth completely irrelevant. Myth 6. Running on empty is a bad habit. Some drivers believe running low on fuel will suck dirt into the engine and cause damage. That was a real concern in older cars, but modern vehicles come with advanced fuel filters that stop debris long before it reaches the engine. Even if there's some sediment at the bottom of the tank, the filter keeps it from causing any harm. The real problem with driving on fumes isn't dirty fuel, it's the fuel pump. The pump sits inside the gas tank, fully submerged in fuel, which keeps it cool and lubricated. When the fuel levels get too low, the pump starts running hotter, which leads to faster wear and tear. A failing fuel pump isn't cheap to replace. It can cost anywhere from 800 to 1,000 euro. It's depending on the car. Another risk comes from completely running out of fuel. When the tank goes dry, air can get into the fuel lines, making it harder to restart the car. It also increases the chance of engine misfires, which can cause serious damage to the catalytic converter. That repair can run into the thousands. Keeping at least a quarter tank of fuel helps avoid unnecessary wear and tear on the fuel pump and reduces the risk of being stranded on the side of the road. A little extra petrol in the tank is a small price to pay for keeping the car running smoothly. Myth 7. Big brand gas stations have better fuel. A lot of people think fuel from big brand gas stations like Shell and BP is better than what you get from smaller unbranded gas station. The marketing makes it sound like premium fuel is some kind of magic potion for your car. The reality is, it's all the same stuff with a fancy name and a higher price tag. All fuel sold in the EU follows the same strict regulations, meaning it has to meet certain quality standards. It doesn't matter if the fuel comes from a high-end station or a budget one, because the actual product is identical. Most of it even comes from the same refineries. Rotterdam's Pernis refinery, one of the biggest in Europe, produces hundreds of thousands of barrels per day that get sent to both major brands and discount stations. Premium fuels like Shell V-Power or BP Ultimate have some added detergents, but those additives make little to no real difference in performance. EU fuel quality reports show they improve fuel economy by less than 0.5%, which is barely noticeable in real-world driving. In a massive study across 27 EU countries, only a tiny fraction of diesel samples showed any performance differences due to the additives. Government fuel monitoring tests back this up. In Belgium, over 9,000 fuel samples were tested in a single year, and the tiny number of non-compliant ones were spread equally across branded and unbranded stations. In France, a report compared supermarket diesel with Total Energy's expensive Excellium fuel and found no difference in sulfur content. The price difference, on the other hand, is very real. Branded fuel costs an extra 18 to 30 cents per liter. That means filling a 50-liter tank at a big-name station instead of a budget one costs anywhere from 11 to 15 euros more for fuel that performs exactly the same. The smarter move is to skip the expensive station and focus on what actually improves fuel efficiency. Proper tire pressure and regular air filter changes have been proven to make a bigger difference than any so-called premium fuel. A German study showed that just keeping tires at 2.5 bar and changing air filters on time improved fuel efficiency by up to 7%. That's more than any premium fuel has ever been able to deliver. Myth 8. Fuel additives improve mileage and engine performance. The fuel additive industry is worth billions because people believe those little bottles of chemicals actually do something. The truth is, they are mostly useless. EU regulations already require detergent additives in all petrol and diesel to prevent engine deposits. Every drop of fuel sold legally already contains the necessary chemicals to keep injectors clean. Many of the aftermarket additives people buy are just extra doses of the same ingredients that fuel already has. Regulators have caught several fuel additive companies making false claims. One company was fined nearly €500,000 for claiming their product could reduce emissions by 30 to 50% when tests showed it barely made 1% difference. Another company had to retract its claim of 25% fuel savings after testing showed that in the vast majority of engines there was no measurable improvement. Diesel additives are another common scam. Some products are marketed to prevent winter fuel gelling, but EU diesel already contains biodiesel compounds that prevent freezing. In Arctic tests, these so-called cold airflow improvers barely reduced filter blockages. Cetane boosters, another type of diesel additive, raise cetane numbers slightly, but the actual effect on ignition delays is so microscopic that drivers wouldn't notice any difference. Instead of wasting money on additives, regular maintenance makes a real difference. A study by Volkswagen showed that cleaning fuel injectors every 30,000 kilometers restored nearly all lost performance, while fuel additives made only a minor impact over a much larger distance. Using standard EU-compliant fuel naturally keeps engines cleaner than anything additives claim to do. A massive fuel quality report found that 99.4% of cases, fuels already met all the required standards without any extra additives. That means almost every car on the road is running fine without them. The best way to keep an engine in top shape is to use high-quality fuel from a reliable station. Perform regular maintenance and avoid falling for the marketing hype that makes people spend money on things that don't work. Fuel companies and shady marketers have been ripping people off for years, but now you know the truth. Stop wasting money on fake fuel hacks and overpriced gimmicks that do nothing. The real secret to keeping your car running smoothly isn't about what's in your tank, it's about how you drive.